I want you to hear this little thing by Rickey Smiley, and then we'll talk for a little bit, and then I want to hear your thoughts. So let's hear this thing from Rickey Smiley, right? Because this had me really surprised and annoyed. So let's jump in.
Yeah,
everybody's scared,
it's just
scared to get their opinion because you know, it's Dave. Okay, I'm done.
No. Comes back in.
Yep, you
Never
too.
mind.
Yep, so just let it go. But anyway, congratulations.
My thing here's about the now they got the baby up here. They take a family picture. The baby up here, 12 years old with the
acrylic nails,
the acrylic nails, and a halter top shirt on. Now, be what you want to be. But the question is, if that boy was a real little girl, is it appropriate? Because my 12-year-old daughter wouldn't have on no halter top and no acrylic nails. My 12-year-old girl,
right?
Because they got plenty of time for that. They got the rest of their life to do that. Now, why you got to march that out in front of everybody, and that's still a child? This is me. Now, you can get mad at me, and the LGBT community can attack me or whatever and say whatever they want to say, but I'm just talking about just as a parent. You got to use a certain amount of discretion, and it almost feels like exploitation to a child's sexuality. Now, be what you want to be, and people who going to be who they want to be. And sometimes this stuff is genetic. Sometimes it's low testosterone. That was explained to me by a doctor. The reason why some people are the way they are. However, we're not telling you you can't be who you are. Then you could be that in private. But if my son was gay, and I raised a child that was a lesbian that's now living her life. You know, as the opposite sex now, or whatever. But while you're a child, remain in a child's place, be who you are. Then when you get old enough, you get to be whoever you want to be. The problem is, we have to set boundaries. Cannot allow children to do what they want to do. And if your 3-year-old or 4-year-old baby, they love candy, but you wouldn't give them candy for breakfast, right? Mm-hmm. You give them what they're supposed to have for breakfast. But if it was up to them, they would eat Skittles and candy for breakfast every morning and for lunch and for dinner. As a parent, you have to make a decision that this is not good for you right here. And when you get old enough to buy your own candy and pay your own rent, you can eat it. And I still love you and support you. So where do we draw the line?
Wow.
I think that's the bigger question.
Where do we draw? Where do we draw the line? I mean, is it too much, Gary?
Yeah, well, now that, you know, since y'all done got in, I'm not trying to make light of nothing, but now that I'm older, I want to know, can I change my name to Elizabeth? Because I don't like Gary, and I want to just change my name.
You can change your name if you're grown.
See what I'm saying? I'm going to stop this here. We're going to jump into my commentary. First, go to Amazon.com and get my book of affirmations, Self-Love. As we talked about words being spells cast over your life, words are powerful, and these affirmations help rewrite your whole entire programming and reattune you for self-love. So go to Amazon and get that. For those of you who know, I do my vitamin E sale once a year. This is what has my skin looking so amazing. I came back from under that African sun, and I don't even need concealer right now. So it's been amazing what the vitamin E has done for my skin, and I want you to have the same too. So make sure that you have $100 available, because I am only selling the 3-pack this year, and then we shall go from there. So make sure you get your coins together so that I don't hear you crying. Make sure that you're on my mailing list, TanyaTKO.com/subscribe, to make sure that you are among the first batch to be able to go out. All right, let's jump into my commentary about this. This whole situation just makes me really, 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 really sad, because I feel like we have a lot of people who are speaking on it. And you know what? The thing is, listen, I understand everybody is doing the very best that they can. But I feel that there are a lot of people who are speaking on it who don't have personal experience with it. And Rickey Smiley came up on the tail end of that to throw out there that he has a gay daughter who is now living as a man or whatever. And it is I can gather, it's like, is your child living as a man or is your child not? What I gather is perhaps his child is lesbian and dresses in male clothing. But if his child were transgender, I think, well, I would hope as a father you would understand a little bit more about the difference between sex, sexuality, gender, and heterosexual or homosexuality, etc. Those things are very different. And it takes really having first-hand experience. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own life. We had a transgender child come into our family. And it's not until you see the pain that this child goes through as a child. Like for you, you know words like gay and straight and trans and all this other stuff. But as a child doesn't know these words. The child only knows, you know what, these are the type of clothes I like to wear. These are the type of clothes I want to have on my body. This is how I want to express myself. The child knows the types of fabrics and colors and the way that they want to feel in these clothing in terms of having that clothing be an expression of who it is that they are. They know what type of games they like to play and toys they like to play with. And when you are in the family of a person who is transgender, this shows up very early on. It's like children are so innocent that they don't know to hold this back. They're interested in different types of things. And just being interested in those things doesn't mean that the child is transgender. It's like we as adults, we have all of these labels and assignings that we give. This type of clothing is female clothing. This type of stuff is okay for boys. And we impose our own limiting beliefs onto children. Children come in this world wide open and free. And it pains me that in all of these discussions, that people are really just kind of talking, but not really talking to understand where another person may be coming from. Now listen, there's some things I agree with and some things that I don't agree with in terms of the trans movement. Me personally, the whole calling a trans person a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, female or male, to me, I don't agree with that. I believe that there are very specific definitions for what a woman is and what a man is, just genetically, what when it comes down to the chromosomes that pump out a certain amount of hormones to create these changes in the fetus. And as a self-love specialist, me personally, I believe that the most loving thing that a trans person can do is to realize that they may not be one or the other or have to try to fit themselves into a certain box, but to know that you are something unique and different. And that's okay. But giving honor to your own journey, not trying to abscond the nuances of your journey and robbing you of that, but to really proudly proclaim and hold fast to what it is and who it is that you truly are. So that's the way that I personally feel about it. And I'm open to dialogue. But I think that one of the things that's missing is adults really coming in and having the dialogue. And to me, the most empathetic thing, the most compassionate thing that you can do for a child who is transgender, first of all, the transgender mind is different. Science shows that the transgender mind is neither male nor female. It's something, it's an influx in between the two. And to me, the most compassionate thing that you can do is to speak with your child. Honor your child's self-expression. Your child may not be trans, but what does it do to your child for you to impose that this child has to wear a certain type of clothing? And for those of you out there who do not have a trans child in your family, you have no idea the type of struggle it is to try to force a child to wear clothing that they vehemently are to reject from the inside. So when you try to force a trans boy into a dress, or you try to force a trans girl into donning clothing that she does not want to put on, you have no idea the type of struggle and fight that you are in for. Like, there's some people who looked at Charlize Theron and was like, oh, Charlize is forcing these clothes on her son. And people just really, they don't understand that the real force is trying to take a family photo and force your trans boy to take that family photo in a dress and some frills. That's the real force right there. So when we start talking about compassion, is it compassionate to try to force a child to wear something that they do not want to wear? How is that loving? How is it loving not to hear what your child is saying to you and expressing to you? And if you need to get mental health help for your child, fine. If you need to get education for yourself, fine. But do those things. And then when you come out on the other end of it, who are you? I remember when I was in college, I had a friend who studied early childhood education. And following, I was a psych major. So following along with her, I went and I got this job at the YMCA, Little Wise Ones. They had a children's program there. And there was this little girl. She was about 3-ish, 4-ish. And she used to come into school with her socks mixed matched. She would have on a t-shirt and she would have on a frilly skirt, or she would have a jean jacket and something sequins or whatever. She would just wear wild clothes. Sometimes her socks were different colors, etc. And her mother was like this lawyer. And I got to asking her mother, like, what's going on with this? And she was like, my daughter likes to dress herself. She I lay out clothes for her to put on, and she gives me a fight or whatnot, and so I allow her to pick out clothing that she would like. Sometimes the socks don't match, sometimes they do, sometimes the fabrics don't match or the colors are not in concordance. But she was allowing her child to express herself as her child saw fit. And at the end of the day, right? It is just an article of clothing. But what does you imposing your thoughts and ideas on your child do for your child's self-esteem? So this girl was not trying to dress in boys' clothing. She just wanted to express herself. And let me tell you, that little girl used to be so happy with her little neon pink sock and her little neon green sock, and she used to be so happy and she was so confident, and she just vibrated, just the enthusiasm of having her desires honored. What will it do for your child's self-esteem? I mean, yeah, you can have a child fit into a box, but what will that do to your child? Like I was saying, sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is listen to your child and let your child lead the way. Now, are you going to let your child lead the way into self-harm? No. There was a post that I found on Facebook where the person was like, if a 12-year-old can make sexual decisions, then why is R. Kelly in jail? And that right there lets me know that the person is ignorant. They don't understand the difference between gender and sex. And I'm going to say this may not be politically correct, but I want some of you to think back to when you were young and experimenting with the opposite sex or with the same sex or whatnot, when you were 10 or 12 or whatever your age was, right? There's a huge difference between exploring with another person your age and having the will of an adult imposed upon you, the sexual will of an adult imposed upon you, so that now you are bending and contorting to the mind of a fully coherent, an adult that knows sex, knows sexuality, knows the body, and you are just a pawn in their game where your poor innocent child's body is being used for their twisted, sick fantasies. Speaking of which, let me show you something else by Little Boosie. So he put up this post when his son was turning 14. He says, "Happy G-Day at Tutti Raw. Love you, son, with all my heart. Pops. 100, 100, 100, 100. See you tomorrow, 100, 100. Got a bag for you and a bad bitch to give you some head. You already know how I do it, Tutti Raw. The mixtape dropping on October 1st. You already know how I do it." He came back out a little bit later, amid backlash, and said, "Oh, I was just joking. I was just joking. But he stated, "You know how I do it." Which means that now he's in the process of engaging in child sex trafficking, where he is trafficking his minor child to be assaulted by some bad bitch. giving him quote unquote head at the age of 14. He can't consent. So now he's using his child as some pawn in some sick world that he has. And it's like when you listen to the lyrics and you just see the ignorance, looking at this person, I find him disgusting. I find him just disgusting. Even just looking at him. The man doesn't look well. He doesn't look well. And these are the elders that we're looking up to and listening to the music of and having these things penetrate into our minds, hypnotizing us, contorting and changing us, casting their spells over us. This is who we're listening to. This man is damn near 40 years old, and he's over there rapping lyrics about, it's like misogynistic lyrics, where a woman is really just a disposable entity. And you know, for the most part, they're talking about black women in these songs. They're showcasing black women in their videos and letting it be known that women, they're not good for protection or providing or caring for, loving or marrying. I love your pussy and I love your mouth. Oh, how I love your mouth. I love your mouth. You sucking my dick while your girl's kissing my stomach. You step in my truck, you know we gon' fuck. It's like, first of all, listen, entering a vehicle is not consent for sexual activity. You still must get consent. And then he starts talking about pills and stuff like that too. I mean, come on. It's like when we talk about providing and protecting, it's like, and then it becomes a vicious cycle where this is just perpetuated over and over and over again. And it's like, nobody's really talking to one another. We're talking at one another. We're not really finding a way to be able to exist in this world together. And then we got Rickey Smiley. I was really disappointed by that Rickey Smiley piece, because it ended with the man who I guess is gay on the show, who is now like, I wish I could change my name to Elizabeth. This is a damn joke. And you have a homosexual person who is in the LGBTQPIA community and is not taking the time to educate the people that he's on the panel with. There was a woman who was commenting in the comments and she was like, our men is wearing dresses. Who's going to provide and protect? First of all, if you think that, first of all, oh God, it's just so much. I don't really see how a person making an individual choice for themselves affects who's providing and who's protecting. This person is making a choice. Do you think that maybe if you took some of the trans men, trans women out there and forced them to live in a way that they don't want to live, that person is going to somehow then magically become the supreme husband for you? It's like, how does this person doing what they feel is right for them affect the eligible man? This person was not going to be an eligible man for you either way. And then we are so up in arms about a person wearing clothing that they choose to wear, because we have, as adults in this society, if you look at ancient Rome, there were men who wore white things that look like dresses. There were men who put on, listen, when I went to the Middle East, there were men who were wearing long one pieces, jalabiyas and all this other jalamias and all of that looked like dresses. But because of where it is that they are in their society, they're like, oh, okay, well, this type of dress is okay for a man. And it's like, we have assigned, look, I told you all, my father got married in the 70s. He had on 4-inch platforms. But at the time, that was the style. Oh, he was hot with his velvet jacket, his 4-inch platform, and his ruffles. Prince wore ruffles, but he was the quintessential heterosexual man who got all the women that you all wanted. And we were okay with him because whatever. We come up with all of these false equivalences that this means that. And then we come up with all of these false comparisons and straw man argument. Oh, if a child wants a candy all day long, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So now we as adults, we know that running with scissors can cause harm. We know that eating a diet full of high fructose corn syrup is not healthy. However, are we sure of what forcing a child into clothing that they do not want to wear? Do we know whether or not that is healthy? And then Rickey Smiley tried to disguise his whole critique as, this wearing a crop top. First of all, the child's arm is up. We don't know if that's a crop top. And even if it was, that is their household. There are 12-year-olds out there who wear crop tops. These people are in Hollywood. They're much different than you and I. Speaking of which, I had the chance to meet Gabrielle and Dwayne Wade. Listen, you all say whatever it is that you want to say. It's like we sit here from our existence and we impose our standards on the super wealthy. And what we would do this, that, and the other. We're criticizing Dwayne Wade's clothing because he dresses like a dandy. Look, let that millionaire be. Let that millionaire be, because I'm telling you, when you come into proximity of him and Gabrielle, you can smell the money. Oh my God. Some of you, so it's like you could say whatever it is that you want from your brokenness, but when you come into proximity, it's like you can smell the, oh my gosh, you can smell the money. Let these people express themselves as they see fit. First of all, the child's father is a dandy. So so if he like freely clothes himself, what can we do? How does this, at the end of the day, how does this and what it is that they're doing in their family negatively affect us? If anything, these people are coming forward. And he's like, oh, you're parading this person around. Feels like exploitation to you, maybe. But to a family who is confronted with the reality of having a transgender child in their family, this is bravery. This is setting the example for what compassionate listening and hearing looks like. It's like, why can't we take the time? It's like, at this stage, we've been talking about this for years. And at this stage, people are still confusing sexuality and gender, which makes me feel like you don't really want to get it. A person like Rickey Smiley in front of people who have an audience, and he, in all of this time, couldn't take his black ass to an expert and really sit down and ask some advice before he starts leading other people. In 2012, I came out with that video of that woman who transitioned into a man. And your minds were like just blown because of the power of what testosterone can do to the human body. I took the time to sit down and talk to this transgender person and really get a sense to understand, because at first I was like, what the hell is going on? You see a person with beard and muscles and all this other stuff. As a woman, naturally you're going to be like, But then you're like, it's a confusing kind of thing going on, because you're like, wait a minute, you got a nanny? You got a little birdie between there? And then you're like, I don't understand how, right? And even, listen, that's a whole other story we'll save for another day. But my thing is, we can't act like we don't have access. And people like us who are in the public eye, we can put out a message and say, you know what, I really want to sit down with a person and really try to understand this. I really want to sit down and try to understand this. We can't say that it's not available to us, but yet we continue to spew the same narrative. And the sad part is that we as Black people, already hailing from a marginalized community, we look back and don't even see the hypocrisy of marginalizing another community. And I understand this ain't my fight. It's not my fight. But this is a viral story, and I'm talking about it. Listen, trans people need to have self-love as well. We need to have love enough for ourselves to be able to have the tough conversations with people. We need to be able to love one another enough to be able to hear a person out. Even if you don't agree, hear the person out and respect. Listen, we call inanimate objects he and she. How many people out there call their car she? The car has no vagina or any womb, but yet we call the car she. We call the ship she. And it's like, this topic is dividing our community on either end of it, and there's no winners in this topic. There's no winners. But I'm hoping that if we continue to discuss that, one day, maybe one day, we'll be able to come to some sort of common ground. And little Boosie and all of his toxicity and misogyny, it is my opinion that he hates women so much. Listen, I heard somebody once say, and this was profound to me, that many of these men love pussy but hate women. So it's like, when you think about what it is that they're actually doing, are they in love with the feminine? Are they in love with exalting that which is feminine? No. They want to use their penis as a weapon for destruction, to try to tear people down, to get the pleasure that they want. And I mean, do you hear them singing about giving anybody pleasure? It's about what it is that they can receive, how they can get, how they can use this person as a repository for their semen. And it is my belief that Little Boosie hates women so much that, of course, he doesn't understand why anybody would want to be a woman. He's going into these theatrics about chopping off a penis. Who said anything about chopping off a penis? Nobody. Who? Can you show me a clip? Send it to me. Where Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle were talking about chopping off a penis. It's like he's over here so concerned with some little boy penis. And then coupled with the damn post he put up about his son being sexually assaulted by some woman, you got me wondering about Lil Boosie yourself. I'm confused. It's like, why is he so concerned about little boy penis then? Why? Why little boy, little hood is so of concern to this man? Why? Little boy, little buddy. Why? I don't understand this. It's like every time you turn around, he's talking about some little boy penis. Why? I'm sorry, excuse me, why? First, his son's talking about getting him some quote-unquote head. How is it head? A little boy, where's his penis gonna fit? That ain't head, that's lip at that point. Listen, anyway, I want to hear your thoughts below. I said everything that I needed to say. I want to hear your thoughts below. On that note, listen, go out there and love one another. Most importantly, love yourself. And part of loving yourself is, you know what, having the tough conversations and educating yourself. Part of loving yourself, let's get to that. Part of loving yourself is educating your damn self about not just continuing to spew the same narrative, but really taking the time to invest in your own self-knowledge and really meeting a person, talking to a person of that community. They talked about how racism is able to be so prolific, and it's because most Caucasians in this country do not have a person of color in their inner circle. They don't speak to people of color. They don't come into contact with them except for how it is that they're serving them. And many of us don't have trans people. We don't see them as people because we don't know one person or don't know that we know one personally. But really reaching out, stretching out your hand to really try to understand another human being. And it's like, there was one guy who was arguing about how straight parents are now being shamed for wanting their children to be straight. First of all, I want you all to show me some evidence of straight parents being shamed for quote unquote wanting their children to be straight. But at what point does your desire then begin to bleed over and become an invasion of somebody else's human right? I want to know, at what point does it stop being, oh, this is what I want, to you now imposing your desires and your wants onto other people who didn't consent for your damn counsel? Leave your comments below. I'm sick of talking about this. I'll see you all in the next video. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that your notifications are on. And make sure that you are on my mailing list, TanyaTKO.com. Peace. Thank you for watching, and thank you for hitting the like button and leaving your comment below. And also thank you for making sure that you're subscribed and that the bell notifications are on. Come on over to TanyaTKO.com/subscribe and make sure that you're on my personal mailing list, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.